While AstraZeneca is being sued by a man who's been suffering from long-term side effects from, of course, the jab, and everything has been going on since 2021. It's quite interesting how the mainstream media, broadcast media, are trying their best to avoid this story, even though we have all these headlines from newspapers. Father with brain injury sues obviously AstraZeneca, Oxford AstraZeneca jab claimed to be defective in a landmark court case that's now coming up, and of course other headlines like this. In the Telegraph, Oxford's AstraZeneca COVID jab was defective, claimed a landmark legal case. The victims of VITT, a new condition identified by specialists, questioned the government's monitoring of the whole rollout as a scheme. So this is actually about Jamie Scott and his wife Kate, who are lobbying for compensation from the government. And by the way, for people who have been campaigning against the side effects and the rollout of these jabs, it wasn't really about the financial compensation. It was actually about raising awareness. It was actually about forcing our parliament to have a better monitoring system when it comes to these sort of rollouts, when it comes to any sort of medical procedure or anything really. Because if we live in a country where politicians claim that they want to have more control over our lives and industries, which means they like to add regulations over regulations over regulations, then they should be consistent. But a lot of people have been trying to avoid talking about the side effects and what's been happening since 2021, because obviously in 2020, when you had the lockdowns, well, so many lockdowns we had and all the measures, the whole point was they rushed through all the programs to introduce the shots, and they said everything's going to be absolutely perfect. Now, the problem that we now have is, as Isabel Oakeshott has now written this morning on the Telegraph, she said, drunk on power, ministers lost the plot in the rollout of the AstraZeneca jab. The government was arrogant, sinister, and undemocratic in its campaign to get people to take the jabs. So, and you can see it from the beginning of this article. She was talking about the night before the rollout. There was a terrifying moment on day one of the rollout in the UK when the chief medical officer thought that the entire program would have to be suspended. 11:43 p.m. on Tuesday, 8th of December that year, 2020. Matt Hancock was about to collapse into bed after another exhausting day. His phone rang, and it was Chris Whitty. And Chris Whitty basically said, calmly reported, that within hours of the first jabs, it was Pfizer back then obviously, 3 of the patients had suffered from serious adverse reactions. One of them almost lost his life, and the chief medical officer and the health secretary had just more than 6 hours to decide whether day 2 of the rollout could go ahead. Do you know what they did? Out of social embarrassment, they said, no, let's just continue because it's going to be very awkward if we cancel it now, or suspend it at least, to find out exactly what's going on. This is what we had to deal with. Because until then, until December 2020, the government has already been embarrassed so many times with stupid rules that they came up with. The rule of 6, Scotch eggs, the 10 p.m. curfew, and so much nonsense, obviously. Using police drones to go around and name and shame people who are going for the second walk of the day. And they didn't want more embarrassment. So they thought, let's just go ahead with it anyway. Everything's going to be fine. Well, we will talk about it, as usual, on this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.